So today I'll be continuing with my college football game by game prediction and roster discussion videos. Today I'll be doing the Michigan Wolverines. In Sherrone Moore's first recruiting class in 2025, Michigan did really well, having the sixth ranked recruiting class in the country, and Michigan returns at 63% of their production, which is quite a bit. But their head coach at Sherrone Moore is going to be suspended for the first two games of this season. So starting on the offensive side of the roster, they were horrible here last year. They averaged only 18.8 points per game. So it seems to me like they can only do better than last year. And at quarterback, I think Michigan is going to go ahead and start Bryce Underwood, a true freshman who was the top quarterback recruit of 2025. And he's a dual threat quarterback with a whole lot of athleticism, but he's going to make some mistakes, obviously, being a true freshman. And he was not very good in the spring game, completing only 12 of 26 of his passes for 187 and a touchdown and an interception. But Michigan did bring in a transfer quarterback who is more experienced, but he comes from Fresno State. And at wide receiver, they bring in from Indiana Donovan McCauley, who didn't really play much last year, but in 2023 he was Indiana's top wide receiver with 48 catches for 644 and six touchdowns, averaging 13.6 a catch. I think he'll be Michigan's top wide receiver. And they bring in from Massachusetts Anthony Simpson, who in 2024 didn't really play much either, but in 2023 he had 57 catches for 792 and three touchdowns, averaging 13.9 a catch. So I think the wide receiver room will be better than last year's, because last year's wide receiver room at Michigan was one of the worst in the country, but I still don't think it's going to be great. And they don't have a replacement for Colston Loveland at tight end. And at running back, Justice Haynes from Alabama that they brought in, I talked about in my top 10 transfers video. I think he has a very high ceiling and could be one of the Big Ten's best running backs this season. And in his two seasons at Alabama, he only got 104 carries for 616, and he did have nine touchdowns and averaged 5.9 yards a carry, though. And they've got Jordan Marshall, a four-star redshirt freshman running back who barely played in the regular season, but he was the starting running back in the bowl game against Alabama and did well, rushing for 100 yards on 23 carries. So I think the running back room should be good. And on the offensive line, I think they'll be good here. They've got three starters coming back. They've got center Greg Crippen, who only allowed one sack and 10 total quarterback pressures last season, and left tackle Evan Lank, who did allow 30 total quarterback pressures last season, but only allowed two sacks. And they've got left guard Elel Haydai Gavane, or whatever his name is, who only allowed nine total quarterback pressures and two sacks last season. And on the defensive side, I think they're going to be really good. So last season, they gave up on average 19.9 points per game, which was about a 10-point increase of what they gave up in 2023. But it was still a top 20 at defense, and they return their defensive coordinator, Don Martindale is his name, for a second season, who I think did a decent job with the defense last year. I think their defense will give up somewhere in between what they did in 2023 and 2024 in points per game. Their defensive line is going to be elite, I think. They've got Derek Moore coming back, who's a senior who played in 12 games last year and had 23 tackles and 4 sacks and 37 total quarterback pressures and 2 pass breakups. He's their best pass rusher. And they've got TJ Guy, who was only a 3-star recruit, but he did play in all 13 games with 3 starts last season and had 32 tackles and 5.5 sacks and 22 total quarterback pressures. And they've got Rayshon Benny coming back, who's a 4-star recruit. He played in 11 games last year and only started 2 games, but he was very much involved in the rotation, like TJ Guy was. So Benny had 29 tackles and 1.5 sacks and 2 pass breakups and 6 total pressures last season. And they bring in 2 transfer defensive linemen, Damon Payne from Alabama and Trey Williams from Clemson. So Damon Payne was a 5-star recruit. No, he was just a rotational player last year at Alabama, but he did play in 12 games and had 14 tackles and a fumble recovery and 3 quarterback pressures. And Trey Williams played in all 14 of Clemson's games last year, and he started 3 games, and he had 14 tackles and 2 sacks, which both came against Texas in the playoff game. And he also had 2 pass breakups. And then at linebacker, they returned their top 2 from last season, who I think are both future NFL linebackers. Ernest Houseman, who had last year 89 tackles and 2 sacks and an interception and a pass breakup, and Jay Barham, who had last year 66 tackles and a sack and 2 pass breakups and 20 total quarterback pressures. And then at cornerback, they returned Ray Hill and Zeke Berry, both really good corners. So Hill had last year 35 tackles and 8 pass breakups and an interception and a sack in 12 games. And Barry had 37 tackles and 9 pass breakups and 2 interceptions and a forced fumble last season. And then at safety, they get Rod Moore back from an injury in the offseason that caused him to miss all of last season. But he was one of the best safeties in the country in 2022 and in 2023, having in those 2 years in 26 games combined 109 tackles and 6 interceptions and 6 pass breakups. And they've got Jaden Magham from Michigan State that transferred to Michigan last year, but didn't end up playing because of an injury. But in 2023, he had 53 tackles and 4 interceptions and 3 pass breakups in 11 games. And then they bring in a transfer safety from Arkansas, T.J. Metcalf, who is good. He had last year 57 tackles and 7 pass breakups and 3 interceptions and a forced fumble in 12 games. So I think their secondary is going to be really good. And then on special teams, they returned probably the best kicker in the country, Dominic Zavada, who made 21 of 22 field goal attempts last season. And he was 7 of 7 in field goals of 50 plus yards away. So now, with the game by game predictions, starting with New Mexico, this will be a win for Michigan. It may be a kind of a slow start for them offensively because it'll be a true freshman quarterback making his first start. So it may be close at halftime, but Michigan's defense will dominate, and their offense will no doubt come to life in the second half, and they'll pull away and win big. And now on the road at Oklahoma. I have a feeling that Michigan is going to lose this game because not only is it a true freshman quarterback making his second start at a tough place to play, he's also making his second start against Brent Venables' defense that is going to be so good. Their secondary is going to be dominant, and their defensive line is going to be really good. They're going to have a heavy pass rush, so I don't think Michigan is going to be able to do very much offensively in this game, and I don't think Oklahoma will do very much offensively in it either. But with them having an experienced quarterback, I think they will get this win in a very close game. And now Central Michigan, this should be a big blowout win. Michigan should get to play their second string in the whole second half of this game. And now on the road at Nebraska. So Nebraska's quarterback, Dylan Raiola, was about as highly of a recruit as Bryce Underwood is. But the advantage for Nebraska is Raiola has a year of experience. And Nebraska's offensive line, I think, it can probably handle Michigan's defensive line to where they'll be able to run the football some in this game. And I like Nebraska's wide receiver room this year with the transfers that they brought in, and Nebraska, I think, is going to have a good secondary, and I think this will be a close defensive game. But I'm actually going to go with Nebraska to pull this upset because I think that their secondary is going to make it hard on Michigan to be able to throw the football in this game. Bryce Underwood will probably throw an interception or two. And Wisconsin, this is a bad matchup for Wisconsin, I think, because the strength of their defense is going to be the secondary, and their defensive line, I think, is going to be bad. While Nebraska's may not be great, it'll be decent, I think. And Michigan, I think, is going to be able to run the football well on Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin, I think, looking at their rosters, they're going to have a pretty good offensive line, so they may be able to run a little bit in this game. But I think that Michigan will get this win because Wisconsin's quarterback situation, I don't think, is going to be very good. And now on the road at USC. This one will probably be a close game, but this is a good matchup for Michigan. I think their toughness will win them this game. They'll control the line of scrimmage on both sides like they did against USC last year and rush for a whole bunch of yards to where they won't even need very much from Bryce Underwood in this game. Now, USC's offense will probably get in the 20s in this game, but Michigan's defense, I think, will still give them a lot of problems. With Washington, their quarterback is going to be inexperienced too, but they don't have a quarterback with the talent that Bryce Underwood has. And Washington has one really good wide receiver, Denzel Boston, but that's the only good wide receiver that they have on their roster as of right now. Now, Washington's running back, Jonah Coleman, I think is better than even Justice Haynes is, but Washington doesn't really have a good running back at number two to help him out. And Michigan, I think, has a better offensive line than Washington does. And Washington's defense, I think, will be solid to where Michigan won't score a lot in this game. But Michigan's defense, I think, is a little bit better. And I think this will be a low scoring game. But especially with the game being a home game for Michigan, I've got to go with Michigan. And now on the road at Michigan State. Michigan State's quarterback, Aiden Childs, has a high ceiling, and I think he might be able to take a step forward this season in year two. And I like Michigan State's wide receiver room, having looked at it, but their running back room and offensive line are not going to be very good. I don't think. Michigan will be able to run a lot better than Michigan State will be able to. And I like Michigan's defense quite a bit better than Michigan State's. I think Michigan probably won't score a lot in this game. It'll be a lower scoring game, and it might be pretty close, but I've got to go with Michigan to get this win. And now Purdue. Michigan has so much more talent than Purdue does, and they'll dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides, and their defense will possibly even shut out Purdue. And Michigan's offense, I don't think, is going to be a scoring machine this year, but they should be able to at least get to 30 points on Purdue. This will be a win. And then at Northwestern, the same situation. Michigan has way more talent and way better lines of scrimmage and way better defense. And they put up 50 points on Northwestern last year, so they should be able to put up quite a bit on them this year with what's probably going to be an improved offense. That this should be a blowout win for Michigan. And then on the road at Maryland, the same situation again. Michigan has too much talent, I think, compared to Maryland to lose this game. Michigan will control the line of scrimmage and run for a whole bunch of yards and put up quite a bit of points, I think, on a Maryland defense that I think is going to really struggle, and their defense will shut down Maryland, maybe not shut them out, but Maryland's going to have a hard time getting more than 10 points in this game. And now Ohio State. I am picking Michigan to win this game because they now own Ohio State. And what's strange about this rivalry is that for a long time, Ohio State owned Michigan, but now it's flipped the other way around. I used to wonder if Michigan would ever beat Ohio State again, and now I wonder if Ohio State will ever beat Michigan again. But I think the toughness of Michigan will be what wins them this game, like it has the last 4 years they've played. Michigan has more experience at the line of scrimmage on both sides than Ohio State does. Now, I think this will be a defensive battle. My final prediction for Michigan is 10-2 overall and 8-1 in the conference. This will pretty sure get them to the Big Ten championship game and likely to the college football playoff. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.